Mandy was an inspiring writer who had an agent with interest in a manuscript she had wrote. The manuscript showed potential, but wasn't publishing worthy, were her agent's words. Mandy felt a surge of excitement at the very fact her agent was ready and willing to give her a chance. But her agent stressed that she would have to come up with a whole new manuscript that proved she was a writer that had the talent to write a novel that had the potential to be a bestseller. Mandy was a carer to a very ill world-famous writer. His name was Arnold Starr. He had a string of best-selling novels, and lots of them were turned into movies. Arnold kept telling Mandy that he had his best work hidden away, and only she knew about it, but asked her to give the manuscript to his agent in the event of him dying. He gave her a key code to get into the room that the manuscript was hidden in, and he promised her that no one knew about the manuscript, not even his agent. One summer evening, Arnold passed away peacefully in his bed. Mandy had did exactly what Arnold had asked of her, and put in the code and retrieved his manuscript. She was about to call his agent when a crazy idea entered her head. What if she kept the manuscript and gave it to her agent? That night in her own home, she rang her agent and said, "Hi, I have great news. I'm finished my manuscript and I am so happy with it. I took your advice and tried my best to prove to you that you're right, that I have the talent to write a potential bestseller." After the call, Mandy settled down with a glass of wine and read the manuscript. It was exciting and gripping from the opening line. On the last page, she was surprised as she read, "There was a spirit in the house of a girl called Mandy. They wanted revenge for a wrong she did, to get even from something she took belonged to them." Mandy thought she heard a noise in her stairs, but as frightened as she was by feeling a cold sting in the air and what she had just read, she felt forced to read on, so she did. The words staring up at her were, "The noise stopped in the stairs, and the spirit knocked on the door." Suddenly the door swung open, and Mandy was shocked to see Arnold standing right at the door. He looked right at her, and his stare made her drop dead. His spirit disappeared. A few days later, Mandy's agent found the manuscript, and about a year later it was published as Mandy's first and only book, and it went on to become a #1 bestseller, which was always Mandy's dream. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Martin was shocked when he overheard his sister Mary talking about looking forward to win a tennis tournament. He first thought it was fixed, but when he overheard a conversation with her new weird boyfriend, he was shocked and couldn't believe what he heard. He often heard of different conspiracies, like people in high-paid jobs and very high positions sold their soul to the devil, Illuminati, and all different types of different conspiracies. But when he heard his sister say she was really looking forward to play, knowing she would definitely win and become a champion, it really made him stand up and listen and wonder, how did she know she was going to win? He froze behind the door. She said, I'm really looking forward to win the tournament. I worked so hard to win. Anyway, so it doesn't matter that we're using the help of Satan. Anyway, Satan will appreciate us using his help. Her boyfriend Jack said, Satan will really appreciate you doing this. And believe me, that boxer you saw win a world title the other night, I'm not saying he would have won it without the help of Satan, but he paid great respect to him by letting his power help him. Martin couldn't understand what he was hearing. He wanted to ask his sister, what in the name of God were they talking about? It all seemed so weird and, well, obviously satanic. Martin always was afraid of anything to do with the occult, and it really sent shivers up his spine to think that his own sister, who was sleeping under the same roof as him, could be a Satanist. A few days passed and he had the opportunity to listen to his sister and boyfriend speak again. This time they mentioned a special room in a huge house that her boyfriend lived in. Martin knew that he had to see that room, so he planned and eventually made his way in there. It was a hard plan to come up with and took an awful lot of work, but he did it, and he did it well, and that is the reason why he was able to get inside the room. But when he got in there, it was just an empty room with some sort of table or altar in the front. He heard noise, so quickly hid under the cloth covering the table. He heard voices talking about people getting into positions near the altar, and then they find themselves in that position in real life. By the conversation, he learned that is how the boxer became a champion, how his sister won the tennis championship. They just needed toy trophies or whatever to use, and whatever position they made near the altar, that is the position they would soon find themselves in real life. He wanted to get out of the room fast, but suddenly he heard a man say, "I'll guard the room tonight." Martin froze in fear, knowing that he could not escape the room tonight. He could not believe that this altar is how they got their positions of power, all those people his sister was talking about. He tried to go to sleep, so just lay down on his back and rested his hands on his stomach. He eventually fell asleep. A few days later he was lying in the same position. It was lying in the coffin position. In a coffin. Dead. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Ben was relaxing watching TV when he decided to scroll through his phone and was shocked when he saw photos of himself posing with what looked like a dead body in his room. He scrolled through some more photos of him, smiling near a dead body. He not only didn't remember any of these photos being taken, but the only dead body he ever saw was of his grandfather years ago. He froze in shock and didn't know what to do. Suddenly he heard a siren outside his house, and there was a knock at the door. He answered to 2 police officers. 5 minutes later, they arrested Ben in his bedroom where the body that was in the photograph was taken. Ben was in shock, trying to explain to the police officers he didn't kill anyone and he didn't know how those photos were taken, and said they must have been photoshopped. A week later, experts analysed them and were confident the photos weren't doctored in any way. When Ben was in prison, he tried to comprehend what happened. 100 miles away, Jake, his twin brother, that he never knew he had, was writing in his diary. Finally, I got my own back on my twin brother, who didn't even know I existed. He had it all, a big house, parents, and a great upbringing, while I was bouncing from foster parents to foster parents, and most of them were drunk. Finally, Ben couldn't take it anymore and hung himself in his cell. At that exact moment, Jake felt a moment of peace and calm. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Michael and his girlfriend Sarah were invited along with their friends Paul and Susan to a new restaurant that just opened. They won a competition on the radio and were very excited to be able to walk into a restaurant and order anything on the menu and not worry about the price. They were all students and didn't have much money to spare with all the expense of college. When they all arrived at the restaurant, they were admiring the outside of it. They heard a lot about it and knew it was very expensive, which was another reason them winning a free meal was a great win. When they sat down in the restaurant and looked at the menu, they appreciated more not having to pay as the meals were so expensive. They ordered their food and ate their meals and were really impressed. When it came to desserts, Michael was the only one to order Death by Chocolate. The rest ordered just plain ice cream. They relaxed after the meal drinking coffee. When they were finished and decided to go home, they had ordered a taxi, and while they were waiting, Michael saw a truck coming straight for him and screamed. He was blown off the footpath and thrown across the street as a chocolate ice cream truck ran him over.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster.
Michael knew he could open his eyes now because they would still be across the street, thinking he was ran over and killed. Little did they know this accident had been planned for months by a friend of his who was a stunt driver. The reason he faked his own death was because he owed a lot of money to the wrong people, and he had planned on telling his friends he was alive when it was safe to do so. They worried if his body wasn't picked up yet by a fake ambulance, that was a part of the plan, then a real ambulance will arrive. But Michael didn't have to worry, because a sign pole that was hit outside the shop by the truck, saying fresh ice cream on sale here, fell and hit him on the head, and he was killed instantly.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed, thinking something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt.
Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Dave was walking through the woods at 10 p.m. when he thought he heard a noise in the bushes. He looked around and saw no one, but he sensed there was someone watching him. He never walked into the woods more than a mile, because everyone that knew the woods knew that it could take hours, if not days, to find your way out. The further you went in, it was like a maze after a while. He continued to walk on when suddenly 2 people in black jumped out of the bushes in front of him and held a gun to his head. They said, "Don't move and you won't get hurt. Me and my friend here have a little game we like to play. It's called The Hunt. You, my friend, will be human prey. We are going to give you a head start of 10 minutes, and me and my friend here are going to hunt you down. And if we find you before midnight, then we will shoot you, of course, and you will be dead. But just for the slightest chance of you surviving past midnight or escaping these woods, then you are free to go. Even if we spot you after midnight, you will be free to go. You will have your freedom." Dave was shocked at what the man just said and was about to walk back from the woods so he could leave. But the man said, "Do you think we are stupid? You are not allowed to go that way. You're only meant to go deep into the woods. And don't think about coming back. We have dozens of more people on the lookout in case you decide to leave the easy way. But don't worry, it's just me and Bert here who will be hunting you down when you go that way deep into the woods. You ready to go, boy?" Dave said, "I'll go, but please don't kill me," and Dave ran and ran. 10 minutes later, the men followed him. Dave luckily knew of a great hiding spot that hardly no one knew except himself and his son, who unfortunately was murdered just a few weeks ago. Dave hid in a small little cave that was hidden by trees that he hoped the men didn't know of. Luckily, Dave spent most of the time there, and when he got out at 2 minutes to midnight, he exited the cave to be greeted by the 2 men holding the guns right to him. One man said, "Hey there, boy, did you really think we would be stupid enough to not know about that little cave there? And do you know there is still 2 minutes left? That is plenty time for us to shoot and kill you. And guess what? That is exactly what we are going to do." Dave lifted a rock, blocking his face as the men shot him several times in the chest. Dave fell down. The men walked over to watch him die. They looked down and said, "You were such an easy prey." Dave smiled up at them. The men wondered why he was smiling after being shot several times. One man asked, "What's so funny?" Dave said, "Ever hear of bulletproof vests?" Then he pulled a rope and a trap fell over the 2 men. Then Dave said, "That boy you hunted down and killed a few weeks ago was my son, and I could have killed ye back then, but I wanted to hunt ye bastards when ye were hunting your prey, which unluckily for ye was me." Within seconds, Dave turned into a werewolf at midnight, which he knew he always did every single night there was a full moon, and he chose tonight to be the night he would wander down the road knowing that they would try their luck at finding prey. He prayed that they would be looking for prey tonight. As he turned into the werewolf, he released the trap and bit their leg, hand and arm off, watching them squirm in pain. Then he said, "I was your prey, but now let me pray for ye. Now I lay ye down to sleep. I pray to the devil your soul to keep. When ye should die in this place of doom, I pray the devil keeps ye a very hot room." And then, within seconds, they were dead.